Buying a business, you don't need to worry about looking at past year tax returns. They're meaningless.
Hey Becky, thank you so much for taking my call today. I just wanted to talk to you about accounting, getting into the Linehaul space, and what all I need to know about buying a new business.
Sounds good. This is Gizmo. She's my accounting assistant. She's one of our best employees at Linehaul Central and helps in the accounting department. But I'm going to put her down because she's going to be crazy otherwise. She wants to crawl on my computer. Gizmo. So what specifically would you like to talk about? Anything special?
I definitely want to know what I should be looking at while buying a business. I'm looking at buying some routes right now. I haven't quite finished the process. I'm getting ready for my LIM meeting. So I want you to tell people what to look at when buying a business. What documents should I consider when looking at someone else's business, and items to see what kind of business I'm getting into.
Buying a business, you don't need to worry about looking at past year tax returns. They're meaningless. Even their financial statements, you can get a financial statement, take a look at it, kind of get an idea of what they're spending on certain things, but I always take that with a grain of salt. Payroll is probably one of the things that I would look at, because if you're going to buy their routes and keep their drivers, it's kind of good to know what they're actually paying their drivers, how they're paying them, maybe look at some payroll reports. You definitely want to look at their settlement statements. That's a big deal. And don't just look at the last 3 weeks. Make sure you're getting at least 3 months. And some of those should be during peak and some not during peak, so you can kind of get an idea of how that business is really running. I usually look at 6 months worth if you can get those from the owner. And then I do my own analysis. So I take those settlement statements, I look at what they're paying for fuel, and then I do my own analysis of what I think that business can actually make based off of my experience with what I know it takes to run a contract. That's what I look at. I don't spend a lot of time looking at other things. You could get their Schedule A just to see what's assigned, what's not assigned. And then I usually, if you're buying trucks, I make sure you get a list of the trucks, and I want mileage because I want to see where those trucks are at in their life so that you can kind of estimate when you're going to have to buy new trucks. And if you're taking over leases, then I'd want to see those lease documents. So those are the things that I would look at.
Now, you say that as an accountant standpoint or your Linehaul experience?
Both. So I look at it from an accounting perspective. I just know that a lot of times when you get financial statements, they can put anything they want in there. They're not audited, so there's not a stamp of approval on those financials, so they can make things up. So that's my accounting perspective, but it's also, just my world experience. I've been doing this for 30 years. I kind of know how things work. I've been in Linehaul for 5 or 6 years now. So it's kind of a combination of both of those experiences that would tell me, here's what you need to look at, and don't worry about this over here.
So I've worked with Linehaul Central a lot in the past. I knew they were big on safety, but I'm just now learning more about that they do accounting. Can you give me some advice on what kind of accounting items I need to look for as a new person getting into Linehaul?
Yeah, so we do accounting services, bookkeeping. We do not do tax returns. I can advise you to get a really good tax advisor. I can give you some people to use, but we don't do that. But we have about 25 to 30 contractors we're doing the books for on a monthly basis. The big things that I always tell everybody to make sure you look at closely is your payroll, your mileage on your trucks, to make sure you're getting more money back from Linehaul than you're spending on your fuel. I like to tell contractors, especially if they're a new contractor, to start with us from the very beginning, because we've taken over a lot of accounts where people have a CPA firm or an accounting firm or somebody doing their books for them, and then they bring them to us, and they've been somewhat of a disaster. So they're not booking even the purchase of the routes correctly, or trucks or whatever, and so the balance sheet is a mess. And so we have to spend time kind of cleaning all that up, and that's costs you money. If you start with us from the very beginning, we have a standard P&L we use. We set everything up right, we get it going right, and then we don't have to spend that time trying to go back and clean things up. And we do everything on a weekly basis, so you can look at your financials every week and see how they're doing. And then at the end of the month, if you want to meet with me to go through your financials, I do that as well. So we'll sit down for an hour once a month. We go through your financials. I can point out areas that I think you're doing really well, areas where I think maybe you could, save some money, do some improvements. The one thing I'd always caution contractors too is to watch their trucks. Everybody needs to kind of have a plan on their equipment. So how long are you going to run that truck? You need to have a schedule of when you're going to turn that truck over and get a different one. Lease versus buy. I just had this conversation with a contractor yesterday. Some of those things depend on your situation, but we can talk through that and figure out what the best thing is for you to do.
That sounds awesome. And like I said, definitely stuff I did not know you all offered. So that's great to know. So we've talked about what you all at Linehaul Central can provide. And then you told me about pitfalls and what to know when looking at a business. What else is there for me to know? What other advice can you give me?
When you buy your line haul routes, you're now a business owner, right? So you own a business. And there's a lot of people who get into this who've never owned a business before, and they don't really understand how to run a business or even how to look at a financial statement. A lot of people will only look at the P&L, your profit and loss statement, and if there's a positive number at the bottom, they think they're doing great. They ignore the balance sheet, they ignore their cash flow, and really you need to look at all of it because it all works together, right? So your P&L can show that you're making money, but you might be using a lot of cash for things that don't hit your P&L. Like if you're buying all of your trucks and you're making huge truck payments, you've got a lot of cash going out and that doesn't hit your P&L, only the interest does. So you want to kind of look at all of it and you got to balance it. And that's why when people ask me, do I buy or lease? It depends on the situation. So it's going to depend on your cash flow, but it also depends on how much money you're making and your tax situation. So you want to make sure that you balance all of that, because if you are leasing a truck, you don't get that bonus depreciation or that Section 179 depreciation at the end of the year. You're only getting that lease payment deduction. And maybe you're making a lot of money and you're going to have to pay a bunch in taxes. So maybe you want to buy some trucks. So you really have to look at every aspect of your business and balance all of it. But there's a lot of people that don't do that, and they get into focusing on one thing and they forget about the other. Like they're focusing on their P&L and they forget about the cash, and all of a sudden they don't have any cash, or vice versa. So you really want to look at everything.
Thank you so much for all of the advice. It was so helpful and it was nice catching up. I will give you a call if I have any questions on accounting or safety for John, but I appreciate you so very much and I hope to talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye, Michelle.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, today I was able to catch up with Becky from Linehaul Central. Not only can you get safety support from them, but Becky also handles accounting services. She emphasized the 4 things that are important to look at when buying a FedEx Linehaul business. Number 1, the A1. This includes what runs are coming with the business. Number 2, settlement statements, at least 6 weeks to 3 months worth. She also suggested to get settlements from regular business time and peak times so you can know what to expect. Number 3, payroll books. We need to understand their payroll before we're taking over. What they're paying for mileage, what they're paying for their drivers, and any kind of different information we can find from there. And lastly, the business's checklist with the VIN numbers, so we can look up the trucks and see if they're leases, if they're buying, or if they owe money on them. And we also need to know how old the trucks are to see when they'll be transitioning out of the business. She also mentioned that it's very important to have an accountant or accounting team so everything is organized nicely and professionally from the very beginning. Thank you so much for watching today, and don't forget to reach out to Linehaul Central for all of your business and safety needs. Thank you. Bye.